Hi, I'm Jason Walker. Welcome to Walker Tea Review. Once again, I hope this is not your first time. If it is your first time, you are welcome, of course. And this is a tea tasting, a way to review and taste, learn to appreciate teas, because depending on how you classify tea, the kinds of teas, there are hundreds to thousands of different kinds of teas. And it can seem kind of overwhelming at first until you kind of develop your palate and learn what you enjoy and what you should come to expect from all these different kinds of teas. And that's what we're doing here today. We're looking at a black tea. We're going to start, this is an Assam tea. This is from Teas Etc. We're going to go ahead and get this ready. The other aspect of what we do here together, of course, is to learn a little bit about how to prepare teas and a little bit about tea appreciation and tea tastings. To do that, we have our trusty little tea taster's cup. This is the standard type of cup that is used by professional tea tasters, people who evaluate teas, people who buy teas. And so we've got our regular old teaspoon here. We filled this one up. It's if you flattened it out as you see here, we've got a pretty hefty little spoon here. We're going to use about this much tea. So we would say a little bit of a bulging teaspoon available there. We're going to also use our water. Our water has just come off of the boil from we've got our kettle here. So we're going to add our tea, or add our water rather. And with a tea taster's cup, what you also see is that you've got an opening there. That's where you pour from, and you're going to fill your water to within, say, 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the spout there, the opening. We'll get our water, hot water, out of the way so that it doesn't, we don't scald ourselves on it. Tea kettles can get, extremely hot on the sides of the kettle, but we've got water that's, very close to 200 degrees. We're going to let that steep for a few minutes. Release some of the flavors, the agony of the leaves, as it's called, as leaves unfold, as they release their aromas and their color, their texture. So as we talk about that, or as we give this some time to steep, we can also be making some notes and getting an introduction to Teas Etc's tea. While we're doing that, if you want to learn more and be able to have your own records and kind of chronicle your experience and your journey through teas, a good idea would be, of course, create a journal. And with journals, you want to be able to talk about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, the liquor, and make notes on those. For the dry leaf, you may want to start making notes now. You want to look at the color of the dry leaf, the shape of the dry leaf, and the aromas that come from the dry leaf. All these things can change with age or variety or even harvest season. So these are things that you want to make notes of. What happened this year? It's always great to have a treasure of records so that you can look back and compare it and notice what you had found last year. Okay, so again, this is Teas Etc. This is their Assam Reserve. It's interesting to note that Teas Etc's Assam Reserve was a World Tea Champion this year, 2009, in Las Vegas. I was there. I was sitting at the table with Beth Johnston from Teas Etc. when she was collecting these awards. She received more than one award. She and Newman and all the other guys at Teas Etc. This one retails for 1 ounce, goes for $6.95. You can find that on their website. So we're going to go ahead and let's just look a little bit at their dry leaf and see what we discover. First off, we get our aromas. So if you're ready to join us and follow us along as we make notes about aromas and other aspects of the dry leaf, we're getting very fruity. There are some fruit aspects. There's a bit of a grape and peach notes to this already. Okay, we're also going to take a few moments and take a look at the dry leaf. So let's take a few of those out. As you look at the dry leaf, a couple of things you're going to notice that there is more than one color, and you're also going to be able to look at the shape. Most of these are twisted, almost Well, you'll see that these are partial leaf. There's many of them are twisted into a kind of a wiry shape, and you're getting like a variety of colors. As I said, you're getting like a seal brown. You're getting some golden tips as well in that. So we've got some fruity flavors or fruity aromas. We've got some deep dark colors, and we've got some gold color in there as well, as we were just saying. So that gives us a brief introduction. We're going to go ahead and set this aside so that we can talk a little bit more or get ready for our wet leaf and our pouring here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We released quite a bit of color and probably aroma. Yeah, there's some aroma coming off of there already. So now the trick with a professional taster's cup like this is actually from Adagio. This is their tasting cup. It's one of the more, if not the most affordable tasting cup that I found online. A tea tasting cup, the trick will be, of course, to tip over rather quickly, making sure that the lids doesn't separate, and because then you've spilled. If the tasting cup's lid does not have a hole pierced through, then pouring can become kind of a sputtery process. So to prevent that, or to adjust to that, I take my thumbnail as I'm holding the handle, stick my thumbnail between the upper rim here of the cup and the lid, so that lets in enough air so that it pours more smoothly. We're going to get our cup, line up our spout here so that we can get a nice quick pour. And you see that's going to pour a lot more smoothly. Got my handy little tea towel here to pick up any drips, anything that's sloshed out. Now we're using a wine glass, of course, as well, and the wine glass allows us to be able to look at the color a little bit more. But before we get to our liquor, of course, we're going to look at our wet leaf. And to look at our wet leaf, you may want to make notes here, notes of the aromas that are coming off of the wet leaf, any changes in the appearance, the shape, I should say, or the colors of the leaf as well. As they open up, what do you notice that's different about the leaves? Now, with the tasting cup, the other part is, if you've done it well, if you have drained it and gotten most of the drops out, then a tasting cup is also useful because professional tasters also want to look at the wet leaf. They'll take their cup, they'll be able to shake it upside down, and hopefully, yeah, it may take a little bit more than that sometimes. There we are. Your leaf will land in the middle of your lid, and then you're free to examine that, to smell it, to appreciate it, talk about it. So that's what we're going to be looking at now. Of course, this can get you can get some drips on there, and we're going to dab those up rather quickly. Now, our wet leaf, let's talk about our aromas first. If you're ready to move on with this, we are going to be making our own notes now. I'm still getting some of the associated with there's a tannin type of smells that you get associated, or fairly recognizable across a lot of your black teas. Within that, there's also kind of aromas of that peach element to it as well. Our leaves, we had quite a bit of a deeper brown versus a gold, but when they're steeped, the color has become more consistent as to more of a kind of a, I believe it's an umber. Let me see if I can get that. Well, I'm calling it russet and brown for our colors here. You also notice our leaves are portions, just like we had expected. So you don't see a lot of full leaf in there. So, in previous tastings, I also did get a bit of a kind of a grape smell coming off as well. So that's peach grape, colors of russet and brown, and so that takes care of our wet leaf. Now we're going to next go on, of course, to our liquor, and with our liquor, you're also making notes about the color, the aromas that come off, the flavors, or textures. Is it a smooth, Also, you want to talk about aftertaste, textures as to, is it a creamy feel, is it more of a watery feel, is it brisk, astringent. Those are some of the things you may want to note. Also, you want to be able to talk about things like the aftertaste. Is it a smooth, long aftertaste? Does it tend to spike and then drop rather quickly? Are there differences in the aromas or tastes that you get in the aftertaste? Is there like a sudden pop of sweetness at the end? Some of the things you may want to note for yourself. So, when and if you are ready, again, you don't want to dilly-dally here, because if you pause for too long making your own notes, your liquor has cooled off. You may have missed some aromas and flavors that can be picked up on a hotter cup. So, as we go along, we do want to look at our color, and I would say that's kind of a, you can tell there's a reddish brown, like a dark mahogany type color. Nice rich color there. Okay, we also want to look a little bit at our, take a whiff here. Now with a wine glass like this, a stemless wine glass, you're able to stick your nose in and smell deeply. Aromas are fairly light at this point, so we're going to go ahead and just give it a taste. And again, as you notice when I'm tasting, I'll be making slurping sounds. I'm getting as much air to come in contact with the liquor, so that it helps those aromatic compounds really travel up into your sinus area as well, so you can detect more of the aromas. You are getting a bit of those, how should I say, a bit of that peachy mango element as far as the taste and aroma. Quite light, or I should say the astringency, the briskness of this tea does tend to kind of carry the tea more than the aromas do. And that's fairly consistent with Assams. Assams are from northern India, close to, are in the same northeastern quadrant, I should say, of India, with Darjeelings. Separate regions though, separate growing regions I should say. Assams are the teas that were originally native to India. Darjeelings actually came from, and it's a fascinating story if you ever get to read about people like Charles Bruce, Robert Fortune. These were the guys that had brought, Robert Fortune in particular, helped to bring Chinese teas into India, into the Darjeeling region, and that's one of the few or only areas in India where Chinese teas actually flourished. The rest, many people did not believe in the early 1800s or middle 1800s that India had its own teas, that there was an Assam variety, Assamika variety. But once that was recognized, that became the dominant variety used in many places, including India, yes, Indonesia, where else? Kenya, and others. So, to give us a little bit of background, yes, we do expect a brisk, and especially the way it's processed, the way it's chopped up. This aspect allows more oxidization and gives you usually a bolder cup in this aspect. So, let it cool a little bit. See if we get any new, stronger notes. Again, gentle, subtle elements of fruitiness still. Let me look at the aftertaste is brisk, as we said. It does kind of mellow out towards the end and bring a note of sweetness to it also. What else? Body or texture is fairly smooth and consistent. It's not doesn't fluctuate. Not a lot of unexpected variation. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes, see if there's anything I left out, and no. So to kind of wrap up, we had a how should I say, an example of a fine Assam. Again, this was Teas Etc's Assam Reserve. And as we looked at the aromas, the texture, the body, all these aspects of the teas, we give this tea a 90 because we do appreciate that briskness, that characteristic and expected notes of a nice brisk body. Although we were approaching a more complex fruit texture, fruit aromas, but still the briskness carried the day. There are some that will bring out a little bit more on the fruit aroma aspect, but the other point I should also mention is some Assams are known or are described as malty. I did not detect anything that was really I could really pull out and say, yes, this is fine maltiness. So, okay, 90 points, and again, this is from Teas Etc's Assam Reserve. Please make sure you join us next time. Let me think. Next time we're going to be looking at special teas, Nepalese oolong. It's going to be an interesting tea to look at. I'm going to tell you, it reminds me of another kind of tea, and you'll be able to see that next time. Also, make sure that you put your comments. Have you tried this tea? What did you think of it? Did you find much maltiness? I'm Jason Walker. This is Walker Tea Review.